The Immigrant Experience with Nenelwa is a weekly podcast about the African immigrants' experience in the United States. We'll hear great stories from immigrants of different nationalities, genders, marital statuses, professions, and experiences. Stories of strength, stories that inspire, stories that show us what obstacles to avoid and how our guests have avoided or overcome them. These are ordinary men and women with extraordinary stories. Let's begin. Our guest on the show today is Sandile Cele. He is from South Africa and has lived in the U.S. for 8 years. Sandile is currently working as a social entrepreneur and has relocated to South Africa. Like many African immigrants, Sandile came to the U.S. to find greener pastures, but discovered that the road wasn't always as easy as advertised. Sandile, welcome to the Immigrant Experience with Nenelwa.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
My pleasure, and I apologize if I butchered your last name. Can you repronounce it for the audience, or for the listeners?
Sure thing. It's Cele.
And I'm not going to try and butcher that in the process, but I appreciate you schooling me. I will get it eventually.
Sure thing.
So, Sandile, we're going to start with getting some background as to who you are and where you come from. So can you talk to us a bit about where home is for you?
All right, sure thing. I'm from South Africa, in a town called Durban, on the east coast of South Africa. I grew up in a township called KwaMashu, and that's where I'm from. And I went to school in Durban, and Durban's my home, which is why after all these years, I found myself relocating back to Durban.
That's excellent. So was that always the intent? Did you know that when you decided to go abroad, if that opportunity were to present itself, that you were eventually going to go home?
Yes, I think so. As much as I was ready to leave, at the back of me, not knowing how I was going to return, but I knew that eventually Durban is where I should be.
Excellent. And so can you talk a bit about how Durban has shaped your worldview? How has that made you who you are today?
Sure. I'm from, Durban is full of Zulus. So the Zulu culture is a huge part of how I was raised. And Durban in itself, is a beach town, very friendly, open, diverse city. So that kind of, even though we grew up I grew up partly in the apartheid era, Durban was diverse enough that I went to a Zulu school at some point, I went into an Indian school at some point, and I went into an all-English white school. So that kind of prepared me when I branched out of South Africa, it opened my mind, not just to the township that Black people were segregated in, where I grew up in, as I stepped out of the township and saw a bit of what the world could be, I feel like it gave me a heads up into what the outside world could give me.
Definitely. So it sounds like you have come from a plethora of experiences that have impacted who you are. You talk a bit about your township being kind of at the core and at the essence of that growth. Can you talk about kind of the landscape of that in relation to Durban as a whole, and then South Africa being in post-apartheid era or in apartheid at the time, just because that's really different from a lot of our other guests that are from maybe cities or towns, but not a township. So how that experience specifically kind of played out for you?
The townships in South Africa were where the Black people of South Africa were relocated to. So we, KwaMashu is north of Durban, surrounded by rich and wealthy suburbs and areas. But again, as how South Africa was shaped, where the townships were hidden. So we are kind of hidden behind the highway, behind the hill. And, it's a big township. It's almost 500,000 people in like these sectional houses, like these these 4-room houses or 2 bedroom, or 4 bedroom or 2-room houses that we were all just set. And, the biggest part about these townships is that Ubuntu was a huge part of where we did feel like a community, even though maybe the conditions were not ideal.
Mm-hmm.
So those townships have become home to a majority of Black South Africans, even now, even though some can still afford to move up to the suburbs, or some of the children have moved up. We always go back. My grandmother still has a house there, and we spend a lot of time there.
Wow. So what brought you to the United States?
Well, that's an interesting one. So in South Africa, when you turn 21, there's this big party. You are given this key to adulthood, and they spend a lot of money to celebrate this event. So my cousin is a year older than me, so she had this. And I just remember thinking that, okay, mine is coming up next year. I haven't achieved anything in life to be celebrated this way. That's how I felt. So I told my mother, I said, next year, I don't want this glamorous party. If you give me the money, I want to go travel. So that's, and my mother, my mother's a nurse, so she saved up for me, and I know she worked hard to make this happen for me. And I did it. And so I just, the following year, I planned, and I wanted to come to the U.S. Because of the fascination of the U.S. And I was still in college at the time. So I took a break. Our summer break is November, December, and January. So I took that break, and I worked and traveled in the U.S. for 3 months.
Wow.
And that was my first taste of the U.S.
Wow. So where was the first state that you traveled to in the U.S.?
Sure. I flew into New York, and funny enough, the first celebrity I saw in New York was Akon.
Oh gosh, what an introduction! What a welcome!
I was walking the street, and he was on the phone with like two people walking next to him. I'm like, welcome to New York.
Wow! Oh wow, that's pretty incredible.
So that was fun. And then I spent some time in New York, spent some time in Maryland. I worked in Maryland at a mall there selling stuff, which was uncomfortable. I did that.
Okay.
And then I spent some time in upstate New York, in Ithaca.
Gotcha. So what were some of your first impressions of the United States? I mean, you saw Akon right when you get off the plane, so that's definitely exciting and could warp one's perception. What did you think?
For me, with TV, with television, we see a lot of things about the U.S. And what I found out was it's exactly how it is. The stuff that, we drove through New York City, and I'm like, yeah, as I've seen on TV. So my impression was that, and when I got here, it was exactly that.
Wow.
But, not forgetting the hard work that comes with making it that, which I think I kind of missed.
Wow, that's really interesting. So you felt like your initial kind of perceptions or preconceived notions of what you thought the U.S. was going to look like and feel like, all that stuff was actually accurate.
That's correct. Yeah.
Interesting. So how did that impression kind of change over time, if at all, based on your experiences in school here and how you've continued to keep in touch with friends and extended family?
All right. So on the surface, it was that. But now when you dig deeper into the people, that kind of changes with where you go. And for me, as I was growing up, I also realized that for me, a place is made by the people. Mm-hmm. So I had to essentially do away with the perceptions I thought of American terms, but just being impressed by the fact that, the buildings and the wealth and the celebrities and just being in America, I had to scratch that and now discover the people that made all of this. And for me, that was the journey. And, we realized that, the American dream is just to work hard for. And you can put in the hard work and achieve it, but also it's, people work 2 or 3 jobs, which is kind of standard from what I found out. And that was the reality that I didn't want to acknowledge at first. So as I was living here myself, you go through trials and tribulations, and people back home, all they know is in America, so everything is good, it's better, And to some extent, it is, but I think for them, they think it's just you're cruising here, and that's going to be further from the truth. It's pure hard work, and you just have to apply yourself.
Definitely. I completely agree. So throughout kind of your impressions changing through those experiences, can you talk about how in turn that made it a bit challenging to assimilate into American culture?
Sure. I mean, it feels like, this is how I try to put it. In growing up and watching American television, we watch these teen movies. At some point, there was a huge teen movie kind of sensation. And within those teen movies, you would see all these cliques in high school,
Mm-hmm.
and then there'll always be that character who finding it hard to fit in, or it's hard to change schools because it's hard to find friends, or these cliques are too closed off, And when I look back, compared to South Africa, even if I changed schools every year, I don't think I would have run through that problem, because I felt that people are more open and welcoming like that. In America, I feel like there are a lot of cliques which come from high school, adulthood, and people, so it's hard to penetrate and be a part of somewhere without being the foreigner, without being, we have a different accent, your name is different. So those things, for me, ring true, in terms of just culturally trying to fit in. I refuse to change my accent. I refuse to mispronounce my last name. So I would always say Sandile Cele. because I'm like, I'm not gonna
spell it out.
Exactly. So those are the kind of things. I do believe that those are the kind of things that also hindered the properly integrating. And somehow it feels like you have to sell out to be a part of, and I never felt comfortable with that.
So how did you find the happy medium? How did you find ways to maintain your authenticity as a South African Zulu man while still finding ways to develop community in the new spaces that you were in?
I found it important for me to be diverse in my fiction. So I, with confidence and being sure of myself, is that my name is Sandile, it will remain Sandile. I'm this, and with millions of people, so there are going to be people who accept that and appreciate that. So I moved with that mentality. And sure enough, you'll find the ones that make your life difficult, in the sense that, you're different, you're this, so we're not going to engage. And you'll find the ones that are very open and accepting. And for me, that was important to get my mind right first. Because it's also easy here and start complaining about everything, and complain about how people are this, So for me, it was important for me to change my mindset and focus on that. And then through that, things just happened in a positive way, where I felt comfortable with who I am, where I am, and engaging with people that can stimulate that. And the ones that were negative towards that are just dismissed and keep moving.
Definitely. So we know that within the African community, many times our families and our traditions, our lineage play a huge role in a lot of the decisions that we make. But sometimes our family members don't understand the big picture of kind of what we're going through in that transition as we are also integrating into this new environment. So can you talk a bit about what role, if any, your family has played in kind of helping or hindering you from you trying to establish yourself in this new place in the United States? The beauty of my family, and I realized this later on, it was that they were supportive. I dropped out of university in South Africa because I wasn't passionate about what I was studying back then. And I took this money my mother gave me, and I wanted to travel. And the only thing I said to her was this: I'm going to do this,
but I come back with a degree. And, and that's it, know. And she was like, okay, you're making this decision, yours, and you're owning it. And so I did that. And throughout, the ups and downs of me trying to get that degree, she was supportive, along with my grandma. So they were very supportive of this. And, at times when I needed help, certain things, they couldn't help me. But their support was what kind of kept me focused and kept me striving for bigger and better, and I need to step it up for myself. So they were very supportive, and I can't think of anything that they've done that hindered my stay here, So for them, I guess sometimes when things got hard, for them it was, hey, just come home, we're here. Even though I didn't want to pick up and go, I thought that, because you seem to forget that, hey, you have a loving home, the people who love you, while you're pursuing your goals and ambitions, so having them there was enough for me, and it kept me going throughout.
Definitely. So how did you intersect those two worlds in terms of maintaining kind of your growth in the U.S. Through your experiences and kind of reconnecting with family to give you that support and to help you progress, but then also when you would go back, and you had this kind of other world that was now a part of you. How did you maintain the two, especially with the, I guess, misconceived notions that sometimes family has abroad when you're coming back? That America is this land of gold. Can you talk a bit about that?
Sure. I had to be stern with my family about certain things.
Like what? Please give us examples.
Sure, because, so for instance, church is always the place where families, go and they start talking about their children. Oh, my son is a doctor, and my son is overseas. So when they go deeper, what's your son doing overseas? And my mom trusts me, but I think also just the pressure from people, like, what is he doing overseas? What's happening? And that was a big thing for her because, in Africa, as I said before, that people think that you are doing amazing things and you're making a lot of money and you're doing these things. So people think that when you come back, you're coming back with loads of money, with all these things. So to her, when people kept asking her, what am I doing, what's going on, to her was, oh my God, there's so much pressure. My son has to be doing something constructive because he's going to embarrass himself, he's going to embarrass me. So I had to tell my mother, like, Mom, I'm studying. I took a break. I've traveled, explored, and I'm studying. That's what I'm doing.
And I'm studying.
And I had to keep on reminding her that that's what's happening.
Definitely.
Without the pressures of people keep on bugging and asking, oh, when's he coming back? Because we want to see if he's done this and that. So that was a hard thing to deal with, having your parents kind of doubt you based on just outside pressure when they had no reason to doubt.
Completely. So knowing what you know now and having gone through this really interesting journey, what advice would you give to the younger you that emigrated here a number of years ago?
Well, number one, know what you want. Yeah. Like, why are you coming here? Understand that first, because no matter what, if you understand that, you go through whatever trouble. Because as a foreign student or a foreigner here, it's paperwork all the time. It's scrutiny on why you're here, what are you doing, and other challenges that could make you give up. So my advice is know what you want and go for it. Whether you want to come here, work, make a lot of money, save, go home, or come here, school, finish, and work, and then go home or stay here. But know what you want, and then I think it will make some of the challenges that come along the way, it gives you strength to fight them. So, for me, for example, as a student, when I changed schools, for example, I had to wait a year before I could work. That disrupts a lot of everything, because now we have a year where we can't work and pay for school or pay for your housing or whatever, because I didn't have any scholarship. So I paid my way. So that's something I didn't know when that happened in the middle of my studies. That nearly ruined my experience here. So I had to, with the kindness of some of the people that I met here, they helped me out through that year. But knowing those kind of things, that if you change schools and maybe we're allowed to work with the students at some point and then they cut off, that's a hard thing to overcome.
Right.
So in understanding those kind of things helps, because sometimes there aren't people to guide you. Like, hey, when you do this, be careful of that. If you get a visa here, don't violate this, So all those things, to me, as someone who advice I'll give to people, is that know exactly what you want, understand the paperwork that you're on, and what it allows you to do and not allow you to do, because things could end just like that, and maybe you didn't know.
That's really great advice. And thank you for sharing that, because I think a lot of our listeners are reflecting on similar issues and need support in that arena. So it's helpful to know that there are resources and that there are people to turn to. So can you talk a bit about any projects you might be working on right now that you'd like our listeners to know about to get engaged and stay engaged with the work that you're doing?
Sure thing. So when I went back home, I started working with my grandmother's organization. It's a children's organization based in townships I was talking about and rural areas. And essentially, these are community centers that are supporting the community. And what happened was, after getting my finance degree here, somehow I found myself more valuable in helping her 18-year organization and finding a corporate job in South Africa. So I'm committed my time and effort in growing that project for her. It's been at grassroots level for like 18 years. And
wow.
And I'm thinking that we could take it to a level that is higher than grassroots. I work there with her. She's my mentor. And I am fully invested in these communities. And I feel good about the fact that I was able to come here, experience what I experienced, and now I'm able to give back. There's so many people who have degrees and who are at my level in America, but in South Africa there aren't many, and I would like the people to look up to that. I would like to inspire people to be better than what they think they could be.
Right. And what's the name of this organization?
Sure, it's Gozololo Center for Children.
Okay, and
our website is Gozololo, GOZOLOLO, children.org.
Excellent.
And people can go out there, have a look at our project, and they can connect with it. They can email us. They can donate if they want to donate on our page.
Excellent. Are you guys on any social media sites?
Yes, we are also on Facebook, also under the Gozololo Center for Children. So our website is linked to our Facebook page as well. So if you get one of those, you'll find all our stuff there.
Excellent. And what types of opportunities did you mention are available for those of us who want to contribute or play a role?
Sure thing. So you can just simply donate if you want. We're linked through PayPal, so it's very easy to donate and safe. We're also running a volunteer program. We have people that can come over and volunteer in South Africa, stay with us, and spend a month to a year being involved with their time. And they can always email us with information about volunteer work. And email us if they want to find out more information about doing that. So people can get involved in many ways. And we're also looking for people with bright ideas, help us grow. So you can always contact me, and we can always engage in looking for a way to go forward.
Thank you for sharing that, Sandile, and thank you again for coming on my show. This has been a really invigorating discussion. You've taught us a lot. There's so many takeaways. I'm not even sure where to begin, but a couple that I do want to leave with our listeners that I thought were really thought-provoking. Again, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. So it's really important for us to remember that as much as we have these aspirations and it looks really glittery and shiny and golden, there are definitely challenges that we as immigrants will face when we actually transition abroad And I think we need to be prepared to face those realities before we get there, as opposed to just confronting those challenges head on. I think we want to prepare ourselves accordingly for that, and not just rely on media or, our relatives who don't necessarily always give us that accurate perception. I think it's important as we make those transitions abroad to also remember not to lose our essence in the process. I think that's critical. So you spoke a lot about not losing your authenticity of who you are. So not refusing to change your accent, making sure that you pronunciate your name to those who may not be able to pronounce it or understand it, not settling for less. I think that's really, really important, and not selling yourself short, because it is important to maintain every piece of you that you can as you transition, because it's going to be very easy to get caught up in the mainstream in order to fit in. So I think that's really, really important, not selling out. And understanding the why, I think that's really critical when you are thinking about potentially going abroad for school, or even just to visit family, or connect with other resources. Remembering the why. Why are you doing what you're doing? How is that going to help you in the future? So that way you'll be able to defend what it is that you're doing, but it'll also help you in wherever, and propelling you to wherever it is that you want to go. So I think those are some really important takeaways. We thank you for that. And we wish you the very best with Gozololo and the other work that you're going to be doing in your transition back to South Africa, and as you kind of continue to navigate both communities. So thank you again, Sandile.
Thank you, Nenelwa. Thank you for having me, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to share this.
Of course. It's been really great having Sandile on the show. If there's a guest you'd like us to interview, or any questions you want asked on subsequent shows, or you just want to say hello or leave an encouraging word or two, please post them on the Immigrant Experience with Nenelwa Facebook page. That's our show for today. Special thanks to the creator and producer of this show, Adetoye Oremosu. The Immigrant Experience with Nenelwa is a weekly podcast, and I look forward to bringing you a brand new story with an exciting and fascinating guest next week. Until then, keep winning.